All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back. My name is Oskar Söderlund. I serve as Einride's chief software architect. And in this technology-focused breakout session, I'm going to take you for a deep dive into our freight mobility platform, Saga. When I joined Einride a little more than 4 years ago, I came from one of those inherently digital industries. And I think I'm lucky to have already been part of transforming an industry with software technology. In my case, it was the music industry. So when I met Robert, Linnea, and the whole team at Einride, and when I understood their vision that the freight industry is also going through a software transformation, and that it's really important that we make that transition as fast as possible, I felt that there was something that I could do to help, and that's how I ended up here today in front of you. But to be honest, what drew me to Einride is also the challenge. It's a big thing we have ahead of us, getting to zero emissions. And the purpose of Saga is to help us take on that challenge. I said before that with the right combination of the latest software technologies, a team of 5 people can do today what a team of 500 people couldn't dream of doing a decade ago. Today, I'm going to talk about a few of those technologies. I'm going to tell you about 4 software technologies in Saga and how they enable the transformation of the freight industry. And I'll not just tell you, but also show you as we end this session with a brief guided tour of the Saga apps. That's right. It's going to be a live demo here on stage at Einride Mesh. We just couldn't help ourselves today, but don't worry, you're in good hands. Now, the 4 technologies that we're going to talk about today are cloud computing, AI and machine learning, open source, and software as a service. I think all of these are already familiar to you, but in this session, we will look at them from the perspective of the freight industry and Saga. And we are building Saga from no legacy, but with plenty of ideas. In some cases, ideas on how to improve on the current standards and best practices. And in some cases, we've seen a need to challenge the current best practices and set new standards. But where I come from, having ideas is easy. It's being able to realize ideas quickly that matters. Speed is everything. And if you ask me, few things have had a big of an impact on the speed of innovation as cloud computing. In my mind, cloud computing has become the great equalizer for speed. With the right ability to leverage cloud technology, a team can bring innovative new products to market faster than ever before. But there is a huge difference between just being in the cloud and using the cloud to its full potential. Let me tell you what I mean by that. A few years before I joined Einride, me and my former team were moving our music streaming platform from our data centers into the cloud. And we used a so-called lift and shift approach. That means that you do one-to-one replacements of the machines in your data centers with machines running in the cloud. We did this because it was easy. It didn't require us to redesign or re-architect our systems. But it was also incredibly inefficient, because each one of our machines in the cloud only had about 10, 15, or at best 20% utilization. The other 80% was wasted energy, wasted resources. But we've learned now that there is a much better way of doing this. With the latest cloud software technologies, especially containers and serverless platforms, you can share the underlying resources with others, and your systems only use as many resources as they need. Being serverless doesn't mean that you don't run on a server. It just means that you don't care about which server your system runs on. But to make use of serverless technology, you have to design and architect your systems from the ground up to make use of it. And that's the way we've designed Saga. When you build like this, the cloud vendors refer to you as the digital natives. And isn't it interesting, the similarities between cloud transformation and electrification? Because the easy way to start using electric trucks is also to do one-to-one replacements with diesel trucks. But once again, this type of lift and shift approach is incredibly inefficient. Because just like with our underutilized cloud computers, we've learned that unless you redesign and re-architect your transport network, the trucks, the trailers, the chargers, they will all be wildly underutilized. And what we have done with Saga is we have understood that problem. With Saga, we bring the serverless concept to the freight industry because Saga prevents underutilization via smart sharing of the underlying assets, just like Saga itself shares servers in its data centers. And just like electric trucks, Saga relies on clean energy to operate in a sustainable way. That's why we have put access to clean energy as the #1 criteria for how we choose our cloud vendors and our data centers. So, cloud computing has fundamentally changed how to quickly bring scalable software products to the market. But this is only one piece of the puzzle. Today, the intelligence and competitiveness of a product relies on making use of AI and machine learning. And so much can be said about AI and machine learning, and I am most certainly not an expert in the field. But I will say this: everyone today has access to amazing tools for using AI and machine learning to leverage data. But that's just the thing. You need data. If software is the engine that is transforming industries, then data is most certainly the fuel. Even with the most powerful software engine at your disposal and the best AI and machine learning experts on your team, there's very little you can do without access to high-quality data. You're sitting on a stranded ship. That's why it was so important for us at Einride to be one of the first companies in the world to start operating fleets of heavy electric trucks. This has enabled us to build the high-quality data sets that power the intelligence of Saga. With data from the trucks, the trailers, the chargers, in some cases even the tires, but especially the batteries. I said before that doing one-to-one replacements of diesel trucks with electric trucks is incredibly inefficient. That's because a typical electric truck has a vastly different range than a typical diesel truck. Charging takes longer time than refueling, and high-powered chargers are just not going to be available around the corner. To compensate for this, you end up having to use trucks with massively overdimensioned batteries, or put in more trucks, or run more shifts than you started with. Saga takes an AI and machine learning-based approach to this problem. By analyzing the transport network, learning from its historical transport demand, and then, via simulation and optimization models, finding the best fleet size, the best truck and trailer combinations, the best number of shifts, and the best mission for each truck on any given day. How can Saga perform these detailed types of simulations? For every truck and trailer and charger combination that Saga operates in any environment, it learns the energy consumption and charging characteristics that are specific to that combination in that environment. That's what we mean when we say predictiveness, and precision. So, with high-quality data, everyone has access to amazing tools for leveraging that data with AI and machine learning. That's because those tools, as well as many other technologies underpinning Saga, are actually available open source. And we have an open source policy at Einride, and the first sentence of that policy says, cooperation is not a zero-sum game. Building Saga simply would not be possible without leveraging open source. And the same goes for most of the software that we use in our daily lives and that we take for granted. But why is so much software being given away for free? I would say that only 10 or 20% of any software product is truly unique. There are so many parts of a system that just have to be there in order to build a fully functioning product. Be it transmitting data between parts of the systems or drawing shapes on the screen. Let's call that the boring 80%. And here's a hot take on that. The boring 80% is holding back progress in innovation, not just in freight, but in every industry that needs to solve those same old problems. And that's why open source is so important. For the boring 80% of your system that's not innovative, unique, or differentiating, I'm saying that you can and should use open source technologies. I said before that I'm confident we are building Saga with the right combination of the latest open source software technologies. That was a decision that we made at the very beginning so that we could focus on the 20% that really matters, which is operating electric and autonomous freight in the smartest, most efficient way possible. But sometimes we run into boring problems that don't have open source solutions available out there. That's because we use modern programming languages that haven't really had the time to accumulate solutions for all the boring 80%. When that happens, and we develop something ourselves, we publish that open source for others to use. I've seen code developed for Saga used in the financial industry, and I've seen code that we developed for the pod being used in electric motorcycles. And of course, with Einride Extend, we are open sourcing a set of tools that takes care of the boring 80% of connecting your systems to Saga and building products on top of Saga. But let's now focus on the part of Saga that is unique. The features that enable our customers to make use of electric and autonomous freight. We don't publish this open source. Instead, we offer it via software as a service. And software as a service is not just a business model to me or a way to monetize software. It's also a way of designing software so that it can be easily adopted by individuals and organizations into their daily work and their daily lives. Let me explain. Software needs to be simple. It's a complicated world, and we have almost no time to learn new software. To me, software as a service means commercial software that we use in our daily work and we use in our daily lives. To help us interact with such software in a simple and consistent way, 4 fundamental concepts have emerged. The user and the concept of having a single personal account across all the software products that we use. Saga incorporates this concept by enabling us to have a personal Saga user account. The organization and the concept of representing a company or a department or any significant group of people using the software together. Saga incorporates this concept by enabling companies to have 1 or more organizations for their employees. But Saga also enables us to form our own organizations so that we can find new ways of working together. And this one is interesting. The space. And the concept of managing complexity by creating separation, while also enabling collaboration. Saga incorporates this concept by enabling us to divide the whole global freight network into separate, manageable spaces. And in each space, many organizations can collaborate in order to make transport happen. And finally, the app, which to me, in the context of software as a service, is the concept of having separate software products for separate use cases. As you've seen today, Saga incorporates this concept by providing apps focused on specific parts of the freight process, keeping each app simple, easy to use, and focused on the task at hand. These 4 concepts may sound almost obvious, and that's because we have all started to build a collective mental model around them, and we already expect how they should work. They are sometimes called by different names, but when you look at your favorite software as a service products, the ones that you love to use, you will recognize them. And you will recognize them in Saga. Let me show you. Let's actually take a tour of the Saga apps and see our software technologies in action. What we have time for today is a quick demo. So what I've prepared for us is just a simple task that lets us visit several of the Saga apps. Our mission is using Saga to order and plan electric freight. For this demo, I'll be using this iPad that we have right here, but all of the Saga apps are designed for any surface, from big desktop computers that we have at the office down to phone displays that we have in our pocket. I'm going to start by opening up my web browser and navigating to saga.einride.tech. And what I see is my personalized entry point to Saga. I can see cards that are related to the work that I'm doing in the apps that I'm using. And if I expand the sidebar, I can see that my active organization is the demo organization that I've prepared for us called Mesh 2022. When I tap on it, I can see the other organizations that I'm a member of. And I can switch into them if I want. But instead, let's get an overview of the electric transport network that we will book freight in. And to do that, we're going to go over to Evolve. Now we're in Evolve, and we come straight into a space that I've prepared for us in advance. In this space, I've created what I would like to call a fairly standard regional distribution network with one distribution center delivering shipments out to warehouses in the region. We can see down to the left that this network has 100% electrification potential. That means that all of these sites can be served with our currently selected electric truck model. I can go into settings and evaluate other electric truck models that I have access to, but for this demo, we're going to use one of our standard models that we use here in Europe. I can expand my network by adding more sites and creating more shipping lanes that I want to map out, and as I do that, Saga will automatically recalculate the electrification potential of my network. But for this demo, we're going to stick with this network that I've prepared, and instead, let's actually order transport. And let's order one shipment for each of these 10 shipping lanes that we have going out from the regional distribution center. And here's the fun part. Instead of doing it manually, let's do it using Saga's OpenBook API. And normally, an API-level booking would be sent from another system, such as a transport or warehouse management system. But Einride Extend includes a developer portal that makes it possible for us to try our APIs right from the web browser. Again, so we spend as little time as possible on the boring 80%. So let's go over to the Extend app, which I have access to since I am a registered Saga developer, and we'll get to that. Now we're in Extend, and in the sidebar to the left, I see the APIs that I have access to. I'm going to click on the endpoint for creating a batch of transport bookings. And here I can get an overview, this is really standard, of what parameters I need to provide in order to book transport using this endpoint. I can see all the detailed fields, etc. And you can also see that what I've prepared for us in advance is actually pre-filled information of the request that I'm going to be sending. So you don't have to watch me type in 10 transport orders. And this specification is not just available in this portal, it's also available open source in the Einride Extend GitHub repo. Now I'm going to use the try it functionality to actually send this request that I've prepared in advance. There we go. We got a response, and Saga tells us that the booking has been accepted. So we now have created 10 transport orders via the API. And let's get an overview of those by going into the Book app, where you would normally use it to track and follow up on shipments. And this is the Book app, and I immediately come into what we call the shipment overview dashboard, where we can see those 10 shipments that I just created via the API. I can look at the details of these shipments. I can sort and filter and do all the usual stuff. And if I want to, I can create more shipments manually as well, of course. But we can see here that all of these 10 shipments are currently unscheduled and unplanned. Now, if I were a shipper, we could just stay here in the Book app. In fact, we could just end the demo right here and right now, because once you've booked your shipments, Saga takes care of the rest. Planning the shipments, assigning them to electric trucks, monitoring the deliveries proactively, notifying us even if our input is needed. But for the purposes of this demo, I'm going to assume the role of a fleet manager and go into the Orchestrate app, where we will use Saga's AI and machine learning models to plan these shipments on electric trucks. Here in Orchestrate, I can immediately see that there are unplanned shipments. So I'm going to tap this call to action and ask Saga to generate a plan for how to deliver these shipments using electric trucks. This might take a while as Saga runs a quick simulation in the background. But what we get back is a plan for what seems to be how to deliver these 10 shipments using, as you can see up here, 3 electric trucks. And what Saga has decided is the best course of action is to do what looks to be 3 separate milk runs, where each truck starts at the distribution center, picks up a whole bunch of shipments, and then runs around and delivers them to all the warehouses in the region. And if I scroll here, I can see that Saga has decided to plan chargings along the way. And this is where it gets really interesting. Look at this charging stop, for example. We are spending approximately 45 minutes charging from 42% to 77%. But why 77% and why 45 minutes? It's because Saga uses machine learning models to predict the energy consumption of every truck at every point in their mission. Using these capabilities, Saga has inserted fast charging tasks to ensure that each truck reaches its destination, but Saga only uses fast charging as much as it needs, preferring slow charging to increase the lifetime of the batteries. There's so much that you can do with these models, and this simple interface that you see here just exposes a few of the parameters. But you can see here that we are currently telling Saga to never allow any of our electric trucks to go below 25% state of charge. Let's see what happens when we decrease that and allow Saga to go down to 15% state of charge. And we rerun the planning simulation. Now, I think this is actually really, really cool. Look at the number up there. By allowing a slightly lower state of charge, Saga's intelligence found a way to deliver these shipments with 2 trucks instead of 3. I'm showing you this just to give you a sense of Saga's AI and machine learning-based approach to transport planning. And intelligent transport planning is one of the many features of Orchestrate. Orchestrate is focused on operations, planning future operations, and real-time monitoring of current operations. We sometimes refer to this app as the control tower. But to get insights about our operations in the past, both as a shipper or a carrier or anyone working with freight, we can go and have a look in Explore. Now we are in Explore, and what we see here is our high-level dashboard showing 1 year of historical data for this demo organization. And this dashboard, as you can see, is focused on carbon emissions and the performance of our electric freight. We can see some high-level KPIs, including an estimation of our carbon reduction compared to using standard diesel trucks. And yes, Saga's models include life cycle emissions from the batteries and the amount of clean energy that was available where the trucks have been charging. And this is just one example of the insights that we can get from the Explore app. Explore is where you go to get KPIs and drill into all aspects of your freight, enabled by Saga's electric datasets. Now, you just saw a lot of stuff in a short amount of time, and there are a few things I want you to keep in mind. First of all, we just did a journey through many of the Saga apps at the same time, but very few Saga users actually use this many apps. For example, you might only need to use the Book app to follow up and overview shipments, while the planning and the deliveries are handled by a fleet manager working in Orchestrate and drivers working in Deliver. And of course, we are actively developing all of the Saga apps, so by the time that you get access to them, they will be more fully featured, more intelligent. But let's wrap this up. There's no doubt in my mind that the future of shipping is electric and autonomous. And we are developing Saga to get us there step by step. What you've seen here today was just a sneak peek, a single example from a near infinite ways of combining Saga's apps and capabilities to make electric and autonomous shipping possible. Consider this a preview of what we are launching to our current and future customers in the months to come. And at every step along the way, we are working with our customers to make sure that we focus our efforts on helping them take their next step toward electric and autonomous. Now, if you remember, the reason I joined Einride was for the challenge and to have the chance of making a positive impact. And I can honestly say that I have never been a part of a stronger team than we are today, and I'm very excited about where we're going in the near future. And we want to bring all of you along with us. And to join the movement and get first access to the latest development of the Saga ecosystem, I would suggest surfing to saga.einride.tech, signing up for our priority list. Use the invitation code EnrideMesh2022, special to all of you who joined us here today at Einride Mesh. That's it for me. Thank you so much.